Imagine a fog-covered valley surrounded by dense, forested hills, with a small U.S. military base called Khe Sanh at its center. Here, in early 1968, one of the fiercest battles of the 20th century erupted. The North Vietnamese Army turned the earth into a living hell, while the United States transformed the sky into a torrent of fire. This is the story of a relentless ground siege and an unprecedented aerial response, a battle that was a tactical tragedy in every sense. The Vietnamese siege, the art of turning earth into a weapon. This was no ordinary siege, it was a masterclass in tactics. Tunnels and trenches network. The Vietnamese dug hundreds of meters of underground tunnels to evade aerial detection, moving weapons and soldiers like ants in a secret colony. Daily artillery barrage. Every morning, mortars and artillery shells rained down on the base like a hellish rhythm, turning American trenches into death traps. Cutting off supplies. With chilling efficiency, the Vietnamese severed all land routes, turning Khe Sanh into an isolated island in a sea of enemies. If the Vietnamese ruled the land, the sky belonged to the Americans. But how did Khe Sanh become the most violent aerial battlefield in history? Operation Niagara, the storm that moved mountains. B-52 Stratofortresses roared overhead before unleashing their payloads, each dropping 27 tons of bombs per sortie. Vietnamese soldiers described their sound as the devil's growl. An unstoppable air armada. The bombing campaign included F-4 Phantoms raining napalm fire, A-4 Skyhawks striking with surgical precision like needles in a hurricane, and Huey helicopters doubling as rescue angels amid the chaos. Mind-boggling numbers. 100,000 tons of bombs were dropped, equivalent to 5 atomic bombs the size of Hiroshima's. At the battle's peak, U.S. planes took off or landed every 90 seconds at nearby Da Nang Air Base to rearm. It was a sortie every 5 minutes. Cluster bombs reshaped the landscape. Hills were flattened and forests turned into crater-filled deserts. We didn't know if we were in hell or above it. Quote from a surviving U.S. soldier. Soldiers went deaf from the constant explosions. Napalm bombs turned humans into ghosts of smoke in seconds. Even monkeys and tigers abandoned the area as if sensing humanity's madness. Though the Americans claimed a tactical victory thanks to aerial dominance, the battle was a hollow triumph. General Westmoreland boasted that the battle broke the enemy's back, but in reality, the Vietnamese retook the hills months later. The Vietnamese saw the siege as a psychological win, forcing the world's strongest military to exhaust its arsenal defending a tiny base. Khe Sanh was not just a military clash, it was a horrifying lesson in what technology can do to humanity. On one hand, it showed how a single bomber could crush thousands of soldiers in minutes. On the other, it proved that bombs don't win wars. After all the violence, America lost the war. While the Vietnamese emerged from the rubble to declare, "The earth swallows tyrants and victory isn't bought with steel."